You are now listening to the CarLifestyle podcast.
With host
Seth Rose from Exotics Rally.
Elizabeth White from It's White Noise.
CarLifestyle.
Hello, listeners. You are now back with the CarLifestyle podcast. We are live from Cobo Hall here in Detroit at the North American International Auto Show. We are fortunate enough today to be with Heiko Schmidt from MBUSA. He actually just took a new position, so congratulations, on January 1st as the Department Manager of the AMG Product Management.
That is
Big
correct.
title.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good, right? I'm still getting used to it.
Does it all fit on a business card?
You know what? I don't have my new ones yet. I haven't tried. That is a good question, actually. I can't abbreviate much further, though, so it better does.
So we are here recording live at the Detroit Auto Show, and you are the product manager for the AMG brand of Mercedes. Let's rewind and start with where you're originally from.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a German, which the listeners has probably have figured out by now, given the accent. So I spent about 5.5 years with MBUSA. Previous to that, a lot of time with Daimler in Germany, Mercedes-Benz passenger cars mostly. Grew up in a small town in the northwest of Germany that nobody really knows, and then moved to Stuttgart to attend university, and then started with Mercedes-Benz.
So right out of the university, you went straight to Mercedes.
Actually, I did something that they call University of Cooperative Education. It is a university program that Daimler is sponsoring. So I was already an employee with Mercedes when I attended university. Okay,
so Mercedes is your bloodline at this point.
As some people say, I have the star printed on the forehead.
Okay.
So.
They stole you out young.
Exactly.
So you started, you were saying, with the passenger cars with Mercedes?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you grew from there.
Yeah, so when I first started, my first real position with MBUSA was in a very strategically oriented position, something we call advanced product planning. So we're looking at modules, infotainment, powertrains, but with a focus of 10 years and above that. So again, very, very long term. Then focused a little more on the infotainment side of the business, and then transitioned into a car line product management role, responsible for worldwide product management out of Stuttgart for the SLK, now also known as SLC. So the current generation as it's on the market, I took over when it was still a design sketch, and then was responsible for it from a marketing and sales side until it was launched in 2011. So a pretty exciting 5 years. And then afterwards went over to MBUSA.
So your main function within the company is more of a, it's not so much product design, but it's launching the vehicles into the mainstream?
Exactly. So the marketing, let's say product management or product marketing, as you also call it, is really, let's say you're part of a project developing a car. We would have a project head for design, for development, for after sales, and I'm in that group as a marketing and sales responsible or representative, meaning I'm responsible for pricing, volume planning, and then actually launching the vehicle, including all the option planning. What are the engines that we want to launch this car with? What is the standard equipment going to look like? What are the option packages going to look like? And then bringing the car into the marketplace.
So you spent most of your time in Germany, and I think before you said you recently migrated here to the U.S.?
But depending on how you define recent, yeah. So I came to the United States in September of 2011, for which was supposed to be a 3-year stint with MBUSA on an expatriate contract. Initially was responsible for the compact car lineup in the United States. So at that time,
that would be the CLA's first
CLA,
emerging?
exactly.
Yeah.
At that time, 2011, the smallest or least expensive car that Mercedes would sell in the US was actually a C-Class.
Because they had the B-Class and the A-Class in Germany.
In Germany, exactly. In the US, it had been the C-Class. But decided that the CLA and the GLA would be an exciting addition to the lineup. So I was responsible to bring that new generation into the market in the US, which we did. Then took on Smart, took on an S-Class, took on the Roadsters as well, and then the recent transition over to the AMG, which is really 7 days ago. So.
Wow. So you get involved with Smart as well?
Yes.
See, I have an original Mercedes Smart car that I imported.
Is fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we even officially started to sell it in the United States.
I purchased mine in 07, which was an 06 model that I bought from Germany.
Okay.
I imported it, and that has an actual 3-cylinder turbo Mercedes engine, which the U.S. models all have a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, I believe.
It's actually a 3-cylinder as well.
Okay.
So there is not really a huge difference in terms of powertrain. But I always like to point out that my first car that I actually purchased for my own money was a Smart Cabrio diesel.
The CDI.
41 horsepower.
Yeah.
Which was a blast to drive in the city, not so much on German Autobahn, but I loved the car. For sure.
Yeah, I have a 4.2 Passion Cabrio.
Great.
Yeah, it's interesting. But so now with the CLA, was that the first time that Mercedes introduced a front-wheel drive?
In the United
US?
States, yes. So let's say in recent memory, that is true. Front-wheel drive never really was a big topic. Actually, what we see is typically in the United States, if you look at a C-Class or an E-Class, we'd have about 50% of our vehicles sold with all-wheel drive in our northern regions, 4MATIC. And on the CLA, that number is a lot lower because our customers realize that with front-wheel drive, the car is much easier to drive, even in areas where it snows a lot.
Which just pretty much points out that I guess European drivers are better than U.S. drivers?
I'm glad you said that. I would never say that. No.
I mean, I know it's more strict in Germany as far as getting your license and things of that nature.
It takes a little longer to get your license. It's also much more expensive. You have to have a certain minimum amount of driving classes before you can actually obtain your license. And you also have to be 18, which I understand here there's still a few states where you can be 16 when
15,
you
16.
15,
Yeah.
16. Yeah.
So are there less all-wheel drives in Europe than sold in the U.S.?
I would say very market specific, right? Germany, for sure, far less. But when you go to Switzerland, for instance, which granted is a small market, but they are very 4MATIC affine. Given that half of the country at least is covered with mountains, so it really much depends. Spain, almost no 4MATIC, and then if you go Austria, Switzerland, south of Germany, 4MATIC plays a much bigger role.
So getting back to the CLA, that's been a great success here in the U.S. And I think it's a great price point for Mercedes. Now they have an AMG version, and you're part of the AMG team. What is the sales like in the U.S. on the AMG version? Because it is a 4-cylinder car. So, how much of an AMG feel does it really have?
So, I mean, coming back to your first point, the CLA has done amazing things for Mercedes in the United States. Initially we had about 3 out of 4 customers that bought a CLA were coming from the competition. So that is
wow. That's a staggering number. Actually.
It's a really high number that we were happy with because it was supposed to be a car that can conquer these customers. Some of them from non-premium brands. This car, because of the low price point, was actually able to reach a few customers that so far never considered a luxury car. And some of them realized that while they were always looking up at Mercedes and saying,
intimidated by it to an extent.
To a certain extent, like I can never afford this vehicle. And all of a sudden there was a car that not only looked fantastic, it drove fantastic, but it was also coming at a affordable price point. So that did great things for us. We lowered our average age from our customers significantly compared to like a C-Class. The same is true for the GLA, and then of course we have the high performance versions of both, the CLA 45 and the AMG GLA 45. As you say, 4-cylinder engine, which at first, especially in the United States, definitely provokes some skepticism, right?
Numbers are an ego thing here in the U.S.
It is, especially when it comes to cylinder count, right? But keeping in mind what this engine is, handcrafted, it's built just like any other AMG engine with a one man, one engine principle. So there's one dedicated mechanic that puts this engine together by the same standards.
And that's also the whole thing behind the signature on the plate, the
Correct.
cover, right?
Yes.
I've actually met two of my engine builders on Instagram. As an AMG owner, I take that very seriously. I even met a few of them at the factory.
It means a lot to many of our customers that they can go to a Falterbach and they can actually meet the mechanic that has built their engine. And we have a number of customers that once that happened, or if they just made a good experience with the AMG car they already have, they say, I want another AMG, but I want the engine to come from Tobias or Jens or Michael,
Right.
who built my previous engine. You can request it, and when it's possible, then AMG will fulfill that request.
That's a big part of the experience, I would say, for a lot of people with AMGs.
It is, and
It's a very large segment of almost like a cult following of the AMG, and it's most people I've seen are repetitive owners of AMGs.
very, very loyal customers for sure. Yeah, which is fantastic. That's what we're, and actually that's true for AMG, but it's also true for Mercedes. It does have the highest luxury the highest loyalty in the luxury segment in the United States. So not only are we getting new customers into the brand, we also do apparently a pretty good job of keeping them in the brand with a service and product experience.
I mean, it's definitely changed over the years. When I was a child, if you had a Mercedes, you were rich. If you had a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, you were like Arab wealth. But now it's more of a mainstream car because of the price point, and the quality is still there. So it's made it more obtainable for a lot of other people.
And while I would want to step away from the term mainstream, the term obtainable or affordable definitely summarizes it well. It is still a car that symbolizes for many of our customers that they have accomplished something, they have arrived at a certain stage in their life. So let's not underestimate the prestige and the status.
Sure.
How much of a pricing or of a purchasing reason that is. But at the same time, though, it's no longer that it seems completely unrealistic to buy or lease a Mercedes. All of a sudden, there is a number of products out there that can be bought at a much lower price.
Right. It's not cheap. It's less expensive.
It's affordable. Exactly.
I think with the three-pointed star, it comes with a lifetime, because once you get into the brand, you have the next step up and the next step up. And I do not think, as an owner of the top end of AMGs, when I look at a CLA, I'm like, that's cool. I give them the thumbs up. They respect me. I respect them, because you're part of the same family. You're identifying the same way.
There's definitely a lot of camaraderie amongst Mercedes owners.
And honestly, there was a discussion before we launched the CLA. We asked ourselves, how would a S-Class customer that spent $150,000 on his S63 AMG react to now a CLA customer receiving the same kind of service, the same kind of attention, the dealership? Because the CLA customer does get that, right? We're not making any differentiation there. And we realized that's really not a big topic. An S-Class customer is perfectly fine with the fact that there is now a more affordable Mercedes-Benz that kind of opens the brand to other buyers.
Which is extremely important for brand image. I mean, just so that they, don't differentiate between somebody of a different, ability to purchase a car that's 150 versus 50,000.
It's all part of the Mercedes-Benz experience, and honestly, we think that's what's pulling a lot of customers into the brand, because by now it's a known fact. If you've seen our customer satisfaction scores improve over the course of the past years, there's been a lot of attention on it with Mercedes-Benz USA to really focus on the best or nothing customer experience, and that's true for the CLA customer, just like for the S-Class customer.
Has the CLA, has it changed at all? Has it, or is they sticking with the current model of it?
Mm-hmm. So we launched the first generation in 2013 and actually had what we call a minor facelift, call it a mid-life cycle freshening last year for the model year 17 model year. And now we're pretty optimistic that it'll be doing well for the rest of its life cycle.
I think somebody mentioned that they are introducing a B class. Is that correct? We
do have a B class in the US today, but it's exclusively available with fully electric drive. So there are other markets around the world that offer a B-Class with a gasoline engine. In the US, an explicit decision to keep it electric only. So that's available today.
And I saw something out there. Maybe you can expand on it because people don't like to talk about future. But is there a Mercedes pickup truck coming?
Well, fortunately, I'm allowed to speak to that because by now it's official information. Yeah. So there will be a pickup truck. It's a mid-size pickup truck that is developed mostly for Latin America and other markets outside of the United States. So we will not introduce that pickup in the US, which, let's face it, is mostly a full-size pickup market. And we looked into it, but we decided that the pickup, while it's a fantastic vehicle that Mercedes will introduce, might not be the best fit for the US market.
Yeah, the 6x6 was out of my price range, so.
Which unfortunately also didn't make it to the United States, but a number of our interested customers,
did.
they found a way to do a 1x1 certification.
So I drove a 6x6 in Germany at Le Tech down the street. They were doing the 4x4 squared kind of before it introduced into the Mercedes market. I was trying to get a 4x4 squared in the States. I don't know if you can help us do that. I know it's possibly being announced again to come to the States. Are you able to talk about that?
The 4x4 squared will come. That is official. We will see that on the roads this year. We have a number of customers interested in the car. We have an exclusive number, but not so small number, coming to the US. So you might be in luck. We'll see.
Awesome. And just to give a shout out to Michael Kubler, we met him on Instagram. He is at F1 Mike. He actually does all the Pagani and Zonda and race car engines. So while we're talking to Mercedes, I just want to say thank you to him. He's an amazing engine builder, as well as every other engine builder you have. But again, on social media for our listeners, because they are strong on Instagram, it's at F1 Mike 28.
Which is great for Mercedes because AMG engines are used in the Pagani, which the Pagani has grown by leaps and bounds. Even though it's a very small company, they've actually sold a ton of cars in comparison to the past. And that's another testament to Mercedes. In fact, a friend of ours has a CLK GT1, which is a pretty impressive car.
Pretty impressive and pretty exclusive.
Yeah, very exclusive. It's one of 25, I believe. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to go on the track at Thermal Club here in the States in that car. It was crazy.
It's an incredible car. But so getting back to cars, what do you drive? Enlighten us.
So there's been a recent addition to my family. I'm a dad of a 9-month-old. So
congrats.
I transitioned from the Roadster and Cabrio front now to a GLE. And we have a GLE and we have a AMG C43 sedan right now.
Okay, so you're an AMG fan, personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite road you like to drive on? I know you just moved maybe to Atlanta with the team.
We moved to Atlanta, which it seems like it was yesterday, but it's actually been a year and a half ago. That was when Mercedes-Benz USA decided to transition from Montvale to Atlanta. We're building our new office facility as we speak. But my parents-in-law actually own a lake house in North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that is a pretty amazing drive on the way from Atlanta. It's a little bit of interstate, but once you get a little bit into the Blue Ridge Mountains, there's some pretty nice winding roads up and down. That's definitely one of my favorite roads to take.
So maybe a lot of our listeners are from the States, and since you're from Germany, maybe you can talk about driving on the Autobahn or through the Black Forest or any of the amazing passes that they can take maybe to get them sparked for a vacation this summer.
Okay, for sure. First of all, I think there's one very persistent rumor that there's only one Autobahn, like the Autobahn.
I figured that out myself when I went to Germany. And it's a funny story because I rented a car. I went into Dusseldorf, and they gave me like this Volkswagen Polo, and there I am on the road, and all of a sudden, like a grandmother in an SL flew by me at about 160, and I said, okay, wait a second. I turned around, went back to the rental place to sixth car rental, and I picked up a Porsche because then I found out that the road system, as you were going to say, is actually called the Autobahn, like we call interstates.
Exactly.
So,
So basically, Autobahn would be the German word for interstate. Yeah. And yes, it is true. The Autobahn does generally not have a speed limit, so it is a good place to take your Porsche or Mercedes or any other car you have that to experience some higher speeds. It's an amazing experience, and I know that many customers enjoy, for instance, a European delivery of their Mercedes. They pick it up in Sindelfingen or in Bremen, and then they take it to the Autobahn and spend a week or two down in the south and doing some sightseeing. It requires a little bit of discipline. There is no overtaking on the right, and obviously when you have a bunch of vehicles going 160, 170 miles per hour, it just requires a little bit of attention. As you go.
That's what I noticed. People are extremely courteous. It's amazing. They just constantly watch their rearview mirror. They're really not looking in front as much as they're looking behind, and they constantly just move over and let you by.
And it is, I don't know if you ever heard the term Überholprestige. It's overtake prestige, would be the direct translation. It's basically describing how probable it is that a car driving in front of you would move over to the right and let you pass when they see you come in the rearview mirror. So it's about the aggressiveness, about the prestige of the front of your car. So Überholprestige is kind of important in Germany.
I topped out a car at 317 kilometers an hour on an Autobahn.
What car was that?
Another car from Stuttgart, another brand.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a turbo. Not my favorite car. I love an NA, but it will do. I want to just touch on the best part of European delivery is I've done it. You pick it up, you can drive right to the Nürburgring. You can test it on the Nordschleife, bring it back to the manufacturer, and they fly it home to you like nothing ever happened. It's amazing.
And I think officially you're not supposed to do that while the time, because I think the insurance doesn't really cover it. But we're obviously not saying that,
So
that's
everyone,
not a good idea.
You can call your insurance company and they will talk to the manufacturer. And you guys will help them out, right?
You should, honestly, when you're over there
Definitely make
for 2
sure.
weeks and you're into racing and you like fast cars, not going to the Nordschleife, to the Green Hell would be a big miss.
Have you been there many times?
I've been
or-
there a few times.
Testing
but
any cars?
only personally. So I've taken my personal cars on the track. I've never been there with in a business role, which might change going forward. Hopefully, given the new job. So we'll see.
That'd be amazing. You could take out one of the Black Swans or something.
Well, and as you might be aware of the GTR that we'll be launching this year.
Yeah.
So our most race-bred version of the GT.
She wants one.
And the special color that we'll be launching with it is called Green Hell Magno, as a reference to the racetrack.
Do you want to tell our listeners how fast it went around the Nürburgring?
A pretty quick time. Pretty quick time.
So you're not telling us yet.
Well, so I know that Tobias Mörs, he's the head of AMG. He's also the head engineer. He's completely nuts, but he's a genius, and he really personally is responsible for the development of the GTR, the final tweaks, and it's going to perform extremely well on the Nordschleife.
It takes a lot of styling cues from the race car, like the front grille. That's my favorite design carryover from the race car.
Yeah, well, and the GTR was one of the first cars, the first GTs where we showed what we call Panamericana grille. And as we've just announced today, the rest of our GT lineup will also see that grille for model year 18. So the GTS and the GTC will also have the Panamericana grille, which is a straight reference, as you say, to racing cars of the past.
Do you think there's any sort of future for AMG with hybrids or autonomous vehicles in the future? Do you think that's something that AMG will entertain, or do you think it'll stay more towards the standard Mercedes brand?
So I'd say answer is probably a little twofold. I mean, we're at a time now where hybrid is far beyond just the most economic part of driving. It is definitely recognized as a performance enhancing
Right, with the hypercars,
technology.
yeah.
Absolutely. So some of our competitors have shown how that's possible, and that's definitely something that we'll look into with AMG as well. Tobias Merz today has talked a little bit about the AMG hypercar that will be coming. We're not announcing timing yet or any exact specs, but it is already known that it is basically a Formula One derived car, and we will include the hybrid technology that we're familiar with from Formula One cars. So on the hybrid side, definitely that's going to happen. Autonomous driving. Obviously, a Mercedes AMG is a Mercedes. So fortunately, all the technology that you can have in your normal Mercedes-Benz is also going to be a part of your AMG car. So that is fantastic because all of a sudden you combine that exclusivity, the sportiness, the performance of an AMG with all the safety and the autonomous driving features that you're knowing from a Mercedes-Benz.
Last year, you guys were launching the E-Class, and it was able to self-drive through Stuttgart.
We self-drive. We call it drive assistance for a reason.
Legal reasons?
The car, the technology is capable of so much more than what we're actually suggesting customers do. Like we're not telling our customers you can take your hands off the steering wheel and the car will drive itself. Now, while the car might be capable of this, at least for certain periods of time or at certain speeds, it is pretty impressive. And Ola Kalinius has shown where we're going with this for the S-Class that will launch this year. And we're doing a mid life cycle refresh for the S-Class, and actually what you're familiar with from the E-Class will be enhanced even further. So it is impressive what the car can do, but it still requires a driver in the driver's seat, and we still want the hands on the steering wheel, at least for most part of the time.
I mean, we're not big fans of autonomous driving. It takes away from the driver experience, and that's what Mercedes has always been famous for.
Yeah.
Is the experience of driving the car.
When we talk about AMG, really it is about driving the car yourself, and
Right.
this is where on the safety side, it is great that there's technology working in the background that will prevent or reduce the impact of a crash, for instance. But in the end, you want to be driving the car yourself. That's why you buy an AMG.
Are there any manual transmission cars available now?
A Smart for 2. How about that? Yeah.
Let's
Is there
Liberty
an
walk
AMG
it.
edition?
We had the SLK was still available with a manual transmission until the model year 17. Unfortunately, that's the way I see it because I'm a big manual fan. But what we're seeing in the United States is that with the progression of automatic transmission, double clutch transmissions, there's not much reason to buy a manual unless you're the driver enthusiast who really wants to.
Right.
But with 8-speed or 9-speed transmissions being available, it is not only the more economic way to drive, but it's also faster in most cases.
Correct.
Well, a computer's always going to be faster than the human brain, but in my opinion, it takes away from the driver experience, and a lot of people feel that way, and that's the reason why manual transmission cars of yesterday have gone way up in price. But I mean, the ease of shifting with automatic paddle shifting is
It's what
the
I
way of the
enjoy
world.
with AMGs. You have a full manual mode and you have the pedals. So while you don't have a clutch, you actually engage yourself. You're in full control over shifting gears, and the car won't upshift when it reaches a red line. It will.
Really?
Yeah.
It
So
doesn't have that fail-safe, so you can just blow it up.
let's say there's certain driving conditions where that is very helpful, right? To be in full control.
Yeah. You have anything to add, Liz?
No, I was just going to mention that even current automotive manufacturers creating manual transmissions have things like automatic start if you stall, or rev matching, or I mean, I've I've started in every gear on another manufacturer just to see if I could roll out in fourth gear. It's quite possible in some other German manufacturers to start in first, start in second, start in third, and then I even was able to start in fourth.
Wow.
So it's not the same as an old style manual transmission. So I think it also takes away from the experience. So if you're going in to buy a new manual, you're not actually enjoying the drive that you're talking about, Seth.
Yeah. Are there going to be any entry-level two-seater AMG cars coming anytime soon? Because I know the SLK is gone. So the entry level in an AMG in a two-seater would be at this point an SL?
Well, actually, we have what's now called the SLC, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to emphasize the C-Class family with the Roadster. It's still available in an AMG version. It's no longer the 5.5 naturally aspirate they had in the SLK 55. It's now the SLC 43. Okay. So with our 3-liter bi-turbo, but that is right now the entrance into the two-seater Roadster world for AMG.
Gotcha. And that's new for 2017?
That is new for 2017 when we had a small facelift of the SLC. That's when the name change took place.
Okay.
And the SLC 43 is kind of the new AMG version in the lineup of the SLC.
Do you have a favorite car?
Well, given the long time I've worked on SLK, and I've had probably 12 or 13, that is still one of my favorite cars in the lineup. So I still enjoy driving it. When I go to the mountains and I'm free, I don't have to take my son or my wife. That would be the car I prefer. It's kind of reduced to the essentials, 2 seats. You're kind of sitting really low, almost on top of the rear axle. I do enjoy that. That said, the AMG GT from a performance standpoint has been the most impressive car that I've ever driven. So that is definitely amongst my favorites as well.
No Unimogs?
I haven't had the pleasure to drive one yet.
There's a couple here stateside.
I drove an Actros, which you might be aware of, is our Mercedes-Benz truck that we sell in Europe, and that's been pretty impressive. That was a 570 horsepower truck, and I might get in trouble because I actually don't have a truck license, but that was pretty impressive.
We won't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. Well, that was a great insight into the AMG world, as well as the introduction of the CLA. We're going to go check out some of these new cars down here.
Yeah, I definitely want to check them out.
I want to see the SLC.
Is there anything specific we need to be looking for, or you would like our listeners to look for this year in their dealerships?
So the cars that we've shown here, first of all, world premiere of our E-Class Coupe, which is an amazing looking car. That'll launch later in the second quarter of this year. What we're showing also is the 50-year anniversary edition, basically, of the GTC Roadster, in an amazing paint job. The Zinio Graphite Magno, it looks fantastic. The new GTS with the new Panamericana grille, definitely something to watch out for. And then last but not least, we showed the GLA facelift. So again, a mid-life cycle refresh, which kind of strengthens the SUV positioning of the car a little bit. Now that is available both in the 250 position as well as the GLA 45
the AMG.
0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. So that's impressive. That's definitely something to look out for. More
That's
to come.
very cool. The interior is really cool on that car. The seats are amazing.
On the GLA 45?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was really impressed
The
with that.
performance seats are just like what you would find on a GT, basically. So it is fantastic. It's a lot of fun to drive.
That's always a complaint for Americans when you see the European seats. And you can have race seats in Europe, but you cannot in the States.
Yep, very true. Again, some of our customers find ways to make it happen. But unfortunately, this is oftentimes something we can't offer them ex-factory.
Cool. We're definitely going to go check out some cars downstairs. We thank you for your time. This was a great look into the AMG world, like I said before, as well as your history. Do you have anything to add, Liz?
No, if someone wants to get a hold of you, do you have any social media presence, or would you like to tell them where to get a hold of you.
So the easiest is probably to get in touch with just Mercedes-Benz USA or one of our PR colleagues. I am on Facebook. I am not on Twitter, which I might have to change as I'm realizing. But that's probably the easiest. So if my name in the United States is not a very common one, so hopefully customers will find a way to get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you again for your hospitality here at the Mercedes-Benz and AMG display here at the Detroit Auto Show. We look forward to seeing you in the future, and we're going to go check out some Mercedes, and maybe they'll give us a demo SLC for the weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CarLifestyle.